Hi everyone, it's Jennifer. This is a serious video, so I want to give you a fair warning. It is a trigger warning. It's a very serious subject. So, if you're easily triggered by the subject of suicide, you might want to click off. So, go ahead and click off now. But I want to talk about suicide. Today is the anniversary of my son's death. He was 15 years old when he took his own life. So I'd like to talk a little bit about suicide and suicide awareness. So, I hope that you'll stay and listen. It's important to me. Alright. If you are contemplating thoughts about suicide, please talk to someone. Talk to someone now. In the United States, you can dial 988 or you can text 988. And you can chat with someone. It's important. The website you can go to is linked in the description box. When you call the number, you'll hear a message telling you that you've reached the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. There'll be a little bit of hold music while they connect you. A skilled trained crisis worker who works the Lifeline Network Crisis Center closest to you will answer the phone. The person will listen to you, understand how your problem is affecting you, provide support, and share any resources that may be helpful. Okay? The call is confidential and it is free. Why should you call the Lifeline? No matter what the problem you're dealing with, whether or not you are thinking about suicide, if you need someone to lean on for emotional support, call the Lifeline, 988. People call to talk about lots of things: substance abuse, economic worries, relationships, sexual identity, getting over abuse, depression, mental and physical illness, and loneliness, just to name a few things that they call to talk about. So remember, the number is 988. So, let's talk about things that you can do. So, we all can prevent suicide. Understanding the issues concerning suicide and mental health is an important way to take part in suicide prevention and help others in crisis and change the conversation about suicide. Lifeline believes that hope can happen. Suicide is not inevitable for anyone. By starting the conversation and providing support and directing help to those who need it, we can prevent suicide and save lives. And we can take action. Evidence shows that providing support services, talking about suicide, reducing access to means of self-harm, and following up with loved ones are just some of the actions we can all take to help others. And crisis centers are critical by offering immediate counseling to everyone that may need it. Local crisis centers provide invaluable support at critical times and connect individuals with local services. You need to know the risk factors. Risk factors are characteristics that make it more likely that someone will consider, attempt, or die by suicide. They can't cause or predict a suicide attempt, but they're important to be aware of. So here are some of the risk factors. It doesn't mean if they have it, they will. It's just some risk factors. Okay? Mental disorders, particularly mood disorders, schizophrenia, anxiety disorders, and certain personality disorders. Alcohol and other substance abuse disorders. Hopelessness, impulsive and or aggressive tendencies. History of trauma or abuse. A major physical illness. Previous suicide attempts. Family history of suicide. Job or financial loss. loss of relationship or relationships, easy access to lethal means, local clusters of suicide, lack of social support and sense of isolation, stigma associated with asking for help, lack of health care, especially mental health and substance abuse treatment, cultural and religious beliefs such as the belief that suicide is a noble resolution of a personal dilemma, exposures to others who have died by suicide in real life or via media and internet. Now, we need to know the warning signs. Some warning signs may help you to determine if a loved one is at risk, especially if the behavior is new, has increased, or seems related to a painful event, loss, or change. If you or someone you know exhibits these, please seek help by calling Lifeline at 988. So here are some warning signs. Talking about wanting to die or kill themselves. Looking for a way to kill themselves, like searching online or buying a gun. Talking about feeling hopeless or having no reason to live. Talking about feeling trapped or in an unbearable pain. Talking about being a burden to others. Increasing the use of alcohol or drugs. Acting anxious or agitated. Behaving recklessly. Sleeping too little or too much. Withdrawing or isolating themselves. Showing rage or talking about seeking revenge. Extreme mood swings. These are just some of the information. I'm hoping it will help someone out there. I don't know, but maybe it would help. You never know. But it makes, it will help. I'm hoping. So, I'm going to give you a little bit more information. There are a lot of myths about suicide. Myth number 1. People who talk about suicide won't really do it. Almost everyone who attempts suicide is given some clue or warning. Don't ignore even indirect references to death or suicide. Statements like, "You'll be sorry when I'm gone," "I can't see any way out," no matter how casually or joking is said, may indicate serious suicidal feelings. Myth number 2. Anyone who tries to kill themselves must be crazy. Most suicidal people are not psychotic or insane. They are upset, grief-stricken, depressed, or despairing. But extreme distress and emotional pain are not necessarily signs of mental illness. Myth number 3. If someone is determined to kill themselves, nothing is going to stop them. Fact. Even a very seriously depressed person has mixed feelings about death, fluctuating between wanting to live and wanting to die. Rather than wanting death, they just want the pain to stop, and the impulse to end their life does not last forever. Myth number 4. People who die by suicide are people who are unwilling to seek help. The fact is, many people try to get help before attempting suicide. In fact, studies indicate that more than 50% of suicide victims had sought medical help in the 6 months prior to their death. Factor number 5. Talking about suicide may give someone the idea. Fact. You don't give someone suicidal ideas by talking about suicide. Rather, the opposite is true. Talking openly and honestly about suicidal thoughts and feelings can help save a life. I'm going to remind you, take any suicidal talk or behavior seriously. It is not just a warning sign the person is thinking about suicide. It is a cry for help. I'm just warning you again. Someone with self-loathing or self-hatred someone who's getting their affairs in order, someone who is saying goodbye. Unusual or unexpected visits or calls from family or friends saying goodbye to people they won't, as if they're not going to see them again. That's important. Somebody with self-destructive behavior, like they have been taking unnecessary risks as if they have a death wish. Somebody with a sudden sense of calm and happiness after being extremely depressed can mean they've made the decision. So pay attention to the warning signs I'm giving you. So for prevention, speak up if you're worried. If you think you spot warning signs about someone that you care about, you may wonder if it's a good idea to say anything. Because what if you're wrong? What if the person gets mad? In such situations, it's natural to feel uncomfortable or afraid. But anyone who talks about suicide or shows warning signs needs immediate help. The sooner the better. Talking to a friend or family member about their thoughts and feelings can be extremely difficult for anyone. But if you're unsure whether someone is suicidal, the best way to find out is ask. You can't make a person suicidal by showing that you care. In fact, giving the person the opportunity to express their feelings can provide relief from loneliness and pent-up negative feelings, and may prevent a suicide attempt. Here are some ways you can start the conversation. I've been feeling concerned about you lately. Recently, I've noticed some differences in you and wonder how you're doing. I wanted to check in with you because you haven't seemed yourself lately. Here are some questions to ask. When did you begin feeling like this? Did something happen to make you start feeling this way? How can I best support you right now? Have you thought about getting help? What you can say that helps. You are not alone in this. I am here for you. You may not believe it now, but the way you're feeling will change. I may not be able to understand exactly how you feel, but I care about you and want to help. When you want to give up, tell yourself you will hold off for just one more day, one more hour, one more minute, whatever you can manage. When talking to a suicidal person, be yourself. Let the person know you care and that they are not alone. Finding the right words are not nearly as important as showing your concern. Listen. Let them vent and unload their feelings. No matter how negative the conversation seems, the fact that it is taking place is a positive sign. Be sympathetic and non-judgmental. The suicidal person is doing the right thing by talking about their feelings, no matter how difficult it may be to hear. Offer hope. Reassure them that help is available and that the suicidal feelings are temporary. Let them know that their life is important to you. Take them seriously. If the suicidal person says things like, "I'm so depressed, I can't go on," ask if they're having thoughts of suicide. You're allowing them to share their pain with you, not putting ideas in their head. Things to not do. Don't do this. Don't argue with them. Don't say you have too much to live for. Don't say your suicide will hurt your family. Don't say, just snap out of it. Don't act shocked. Don't lecture on the value of life. Don't argue that suicide is wrong. Don't do that. Don't promise confidentiality, and don't be sworn to secrecy. A life is at stake, and you may need to speak to a mental health professional in order to keep the suicidal person safe. If you promise to keep your discussion secret, you may have to break your word. Do not offer ways to fix their problems. Don't give advice, and don't make them feel like they have to justify their feelings. It is not about how bad the problem is, but how badly it is hurting them. And above all, don't blame yourself. You cannot fix someone else's depression. Their happiness or their lack of happiness, it is not your responsibility. It's not. Tip number 2. You need to respond quickly in a crisis. If a friend or family member tells you that they're thinking about death or suicide, it's important to evaluate the immediate danger the person's in. Those at the highest risk for committing suicide in the near future have a specific plan, the means to carry out that plan, a time set for doing it, and an intention to do it. Here are some questions that can help you assess the immediate risk. 1. Do you have a plan? 2. Do you have what you need to carry out your plan? 3. Do you know when you'd like to do it? 4. Do you intend to take your own life? That is plan, means, time set, intention. The level of risk. Low. Some suicidal thought, no plan. The person says they won't attempt suicide. Moderate. Suicidal thoughts, a vague plan that isn't very lethal, says they won't attempt suicide. High. Suicidal thoughts, specific plan that is highly lethal, says they won't attempt suicide. Severe. Suicidal thoughts, specific plan that is highly lethal, the person says they will attempt suicide. If a suicide attempt seems imminent, call a local crisis center. Phone your country's emergency services number. That's 911 in the United States, 999 in the UK. Take the person to the emergency room. Remove guns, drugs, knives, and other potentially lethal objects from the vicinity, but do not, under any circumstances, leave them alone. Pardon. Tip 3. Offer help and support. The best way to help is by offering an empathetic ear. Listen. Let them know that they're not alone and that you care. Don't take responsibility, however, for healing them. You can offer support, but you can't make them get better. They have to make a personal commitment to recovery. It takes a lot of courage to help someone who is suicidal. Witnessing a loved one dealing with thoughts about ending their life can stir up many difficult emotions. As you're helping a suicidal person, don't forget to take care of yourself. Find someone you can trust, a friend, a family member, a clergyman, or a counselor, to talk to about your feelings and get support of your own. It's very, very important. Okay? So, to help a suicidal person, we're going to get professional help. So you do everything in your power to get the suicidal person the help that they need. Be it a crisis hotline for advice and referrals. Encourage them to see a mental health professional. Locate treatment facility or take them to a doctor. You're going to follow up on treatment. If the doctor prescribes medication, you're going to make sure that they take it as directed. Be aware of possible side effects. Be sure to notify the doctor if they seem to be getting worse. It often takes time and persistence to find the medication or therapy that is right for that person. You're going to be proactive. Those contemplating suicide often don't believe they can be helped. So you may have to be more proactive at offering assistance. Saying, "Call me if you need anything," is too vague. Don't wait for the person to call you or even to return your calls. Drop by, call again, invite the person out. Encourage positive lifestyle changes. such as a healthy diet, plenty of sleep, getting out in the sun or into nature for at least 30 minutes a day. Exercise is also extremely important, as it will release endorphins, relieve stress, and promote emotional well-being. I think yoga is a good choice. Make a safety plan. Help the person develop a set of steps they promise to follow during a crisis. It should identify any triggers that may lead to a suicidal crisis, such as an anniversary of a loss, alcohol, or stress from relationships. Also include contact numbers for the person's doctor or therapist, as well as friends and family members who will help in an emergency. You do need to remove means of suicide, such as pills, knives, razors, or firearms. If the person is likely to take an overdose, keep medications locked away and give them out only as the person needs them. Continue your support over the long haul. Even after the immediate suicidal crisis is past, stay in touch with the person, periodically checking in or dropping by. Your support is vital to ensure your friend or loved one remains in the recovery track. It's very important. According to the United States Department of Health and Human Services, at least 90% of all people who die by suicide suffer from one or more mental disorders, such as depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, or alcoholism. Depression in particular plays a large role in suicide. The difficulty that suicidal people have imagining a solution to their suffering is due in part to the distorted thinking caused by depression. That is, a sad thing. For some, depression medication causes an increase rather than a decrease in depression and suicidal thoughts and feelings. Because of this risk, the FDA advises that anyone taking antidepressants should be watched for increases in suicidal thoughts and behavior. Monitoring is especially important if this person's first time on depression medication or if the dose has been recently changed. The risk of suicide is greatest during the first 2 months of antidepressant treatment. It's just so a little FYI. And in general, in addition to the general factors for suicide, both teenagers and older adults are at a higher risk. Teenage suicide is a serious and growing problem. The teen years can be emotionally turbulent and stressful. Teenagers face pressures to succeed and fit in. They may struggle with self-esteem issues, self-doubt, and feelings of alienation. And for some, that leads to suicide. Depression is a major risk factor for teen suicide. Other risk factors for teen suicide are childhood abuse, recent traumatic event, lack of a support network, availability of a gun, hostile social or a school environment, exposure to other teen suicides. Warning signs in teens: change in eating and sleeping habits, withdrawal from friends, family, and regular activities, violent or rebellious behavior, bullying and running away, drug and alcohol abuse, usual neglect of personal appearance, persistent boredom, difficulty concentrating, or a decline in the quality of schoolwork, frequent complaints about physical symptoms such as stomach pains, headaches, or tiredness, rejecting praise or rewards. Suicide in the elderly. The highest suicide of any age group occur among persons aged 65 and older. One contributing factor is depression in the elderly that is undiagnosed and untreated. Risk factors for suicide in the elderly include recent death of a loved one, isolation and loneliness, physical illness, disability, or pain, major life changes such as retirement or loss of independence, loss of sense of purpose, warning signs in older adults, reading about death and suicide, changes in sleep patterns, increased consumption of alcohol or prescription drugs, self-neglect or failing to follow medical orders, stockpiling medications, or taking a sudden interest in firearms, withdrawing from friends, family, and social activities, bidding elaborate farewells, or hurrying to revise a will. This information comes from helpguide.org. So make sure that you keep an eye on people. Look for the warning signs. It's important. I lost someone very dear to me, my youngest child. He was only 15. He died February 3rd, 2020. He would have been 16 on February 27th. So February is a very difficult month for me and my husband and our other 4 children. It's hard. It doesn't get any easier. We're just trying to learn to live with it. And when I tell you there were no warning signs, there were none. We didn't find out until after he died, and there was a police investigation that he was being bullied in school. We had no idea. No idea. My son was being bullied, and he took his own life. It's horrific. I'd give anything to have him back. So would my husband. It's hard to talk about. There's no words. So this time of year is difficult for me. What I want people to take away from this, I want you to be aware of your friends and your family and look after them and keep them safe. And what I want you to see in me is that by the grace of God, I have been able to get up and still move on. Because when he died, I didn't want to live. But I had family that looked out for me. And I got up. And I carried on. So all I want you to take from this is that I had the courage to go on with God's grace. I miss him every minute of every hour of every day. Love on your children. Make sure people stop bullying others and stand up for those that get bullied. Doesn't mean you just pick on them. It's picking on them, calling them names, excluding them from groups. That's bullying. Don't bully people, because you never know. It might cost someone their life. I wish I could have saved my sons. I hope with this information, it saves someone's life. Please stay safe out there, you guys. God bless you all.